whatever you do everything for the glory of God. What does that mean? Now, we were gathering up, and we split the girls and the guys this past weekend because we had a lock-in here. And as you look at the faces of all the youth, they're all kind of like this because they were up a little late. And we had some good discussions, and the guys all sat in a circle, and I asked them this question. I said, what have you guys done in your life that is for the glory of God? And they started answering, well, when Aunt Helen asked me to go and get something out of her car, I went and did it without asking, without questioning. Well, okay, that's awesome. Well, when I was asked to pull out chairs and tables downstairs in the fellowship hall, I just did it without asking. Awesome. And then, one of the guys said that he went to the movies with a couple of his friends, and they wanted to sneak into a rated R movie because they thought it was going to be a really funny movie, and in his heart he knew that it was wrong. So what he did was he said, "Wow, guys, I don't think that's right," and you didn't go. Well, that's great. And some of them talked about, well, I did the drama in VBS. Yeah. Well, some of them talked about, well, I prayed for this person. Yeah, I'm ready. Most of them talked about, oh, I did the Bible story time in Jacob, and I did the crafts, and I did motions, because motions. Peyton was dancing around for 4 hours a day, teaching kids how to do motions. So here's all their answers, and I was like, that's great, because you know what? That was for the glory of God. Because it doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be something life-changing. It doesn't have to be the biggest event in your life that's for the glory of God. But what it has to be is the little things that you do every single day that is for the glory of God. And what do we do? Because most of the time, when you're asked to do something, it's yeah, you might do it, but if you didn't want to do it, you'll have that, like, maybe afterwards you'll be like, that was so lame, right? Or like, wow, why did I do that? Or, wow, I can't believe that person asked me to do that. Or, there's all sorts of situations, right? Or there's all sorts of situations like, why should I help that person? Or why should I do this for that person? Or why, there's all sorts of things that we come out and we do things with not such a great heart. And we do things not with a smile. And we do things just because it might make us look good in the end. But the thing is, when we start to do things for the glory of God, and we start to do everything through the joy of Christ, and with a smile, without questioning, without ever thinking, why, and just do it. Why should I do this? Why would I ever want to do that? If we start doing things without questioning those things, then that's where we can start imitating Christ. And that is where we can start to have others follow us in that way. And that's where we can show the joy of Christ through others, because it is so different than what the world tells us we should do. Because the world is all about me, right? Everything that we try to do in life is about getting ahead of someone else. Is about how can I get a better job? Or how can I get more money? How could I make my family more stable, right? How can I do these things? How can I? But then Paul really explains to us that it's not about you. And that's really about what imitating Christ is. When I know that we had Ellen and Jared and Jacob come up here and share, and a lot of it was really, wow, that's awesome. But I was with them the whole time, and I was with them the whole time, and when they first got there, it was about me. Because there were situations, and you heard about the shower thing, right? Jared shared about the shower thing. But at first, it was, what? We don't get showers? Right? I mean, that was on. It was like, what? And it's a luxury that we take for granted. And it was like, what? Are we going to shower today? And sometimes they couldn't even concentrate on the task at hand because they were thinking about showers. Okay? And it was all about like, what? When do I get it? But then you gotta come, what the awesome thing that happened during Astoria, and the awesome thing that God really revealed to them, it wasn't about them anymore. Because why did they go? Because they went to serve the kids first. They went to serve Astoria first. And then as God started to reveal that in them, showers weren't that important anymore. It was really about what work that they had to do to get the glory of God. What they had to do for the glory of God. It was, we were at this lock-in this past weekend, and I was actually sharing with them about this passage through the lock-in because, I really believe in the repetition really gets it into your head, right? So we were talking about this, and I was talking about how our actions can cause someone to stumble. And while we were playing games, there's a big group of kids, so we were being pretty loud. And this neighborhood really doesn't like it when people are loud at night. And it was pretty late, and it was about 12:30, past midnight. And we were being pretty loud, and we were still playing games, and we were getting ready for this initiation thing that we do with all our new gang members that come up. And as the kids were getting stuff ready outside, they got a little loud, and one of our neighbors came over. And she came over and was like, what are you guys doing? It's like, it's late, or my kids are trying to sleep. And I was sitting there, and I had shorts on, a t-shirt, and I was looking like one of the youth kids. And so then she kind of looked over, and she's like, what are you guys doing? Yelling, thinking that there was no adult supervision there, and things like that. And so I was just sitting there, I was like, oh, what's the problem? And she kind of looked at me, and then kind of glanced away because she just thought I was a youth kid probably. So then what happened was, she was there, and she was pretty upset, and she's like, you guys need to stop. You guys need to stop doing this. You guys need to be quiet. So then my first reaction was like, what? That's kind of like if someone attacks you, if someone says that you're doing something wrong, the first thing is always kind of defensive, right? So I was like, oh, but and the thing is she went away probably thinking that nothing's going to be done. So then she came back again, and she's like, I'm going to call the cops if you guys don't do this. And if you guys don't, settle down. And then I got even more defensive a little bit. I was like, what? I was like, we'll take care of it. And she kind of looked at me pretty much like, I'm one of the youth kids, how are you going to take care of it? Right? How are you going to take care of it? Because, whatever. Right? And she kind of walked away angry. And then she kind of gave this last warning of you guys better be quiet or I'm really going to call the cops on you guys. So then I was sitting there, and after this all happened, God really revealed something in me. Because here I was telling the youth kids that our actions matter. And here I was telling the youth kids that we got to think twice. And I went and turned around and I did not feel opposite. And it broke my heart. And I was just like, wow. This was a moment where God was telling me something. And so then I was so crushed because I know that we did quiet down, and we did, we didn't actually do the things that we were planning that night because we would probably get a little loud. But I know that maybe my actions might have caused someone else to stumble a little bit. And that really crushed me a little bit. And I know that it's in the past and whatever, but that'll live with me for a little while because I really could have made an impact on her life at that moment. But I acted without thinking twice. And I acted just out of impulse. And the thing is, I always tell the youth kids, think twice before you act, because your actions can affect someone else in a negative way. And this is really what I believe Paul is telling us to do. Paul is telling us your actions can leave a lasting impact on someone. So think twice before we do it. But the other thing is, point 2 is this, that we have to enjoy our blessings that God gives us. And I believe this is how we become a better imitator of Christ, is when we can start serving others and serving and thinking about others before ourselves with a smile and a genuine smile. Right? This is really where we can really become a true imitator of Christ that others will want to follow. Have you ever, even in the past year, thought of someone else before yourself with a smile? Have you ever? Have you ever thought of someone else before yourself without having a thought in your head saying, wow, I could have done something else with that. Or I could have done something else at that time. Right? Oh wow. Right? Have you ever had that thought after? The thing is, what Paul is trying to point out is that when we serve, we need to serve with all that we have. When we put others first, we need to put others with all that we have. Because if we're going to do something, we need to do everything for the glory of God. So when the youth kids gave that example of going out and getting something out of the car for someone, they didn't ask questions, they just did it. That was for the glory of God. The simple things, as long as we have the right intention, is for the glory of God. When we went to Astoria, God moved. When we went to Astoria, lives changed, down there and here. Become imitators of Christ. Become imitators of Christ. Because people want to follow you. You are the best example for others to follow. You are the best example for your kids to follow. You are the best example for all your friends to follow. So become like Christ, so they can be like Christ as well. Amen.